Hello and welcome everybody. It's Rose Smith here from AbsoluteSoulSecrets.com. Thanks so much for joining me for the terrific Taurus October horoscope. Well, what a big month we're having in October. We have Mercury, Saturn and Pluto turning direct, and that's going to give us a great big push forward in life. We also have a solar eclipse in Scorpio on the 25th. And we have Mars going retrograde on the 30th. There's a lot of other things happening, which I'll talk about as we move along. But just to briefly explain, firstly, I like to draw some cards just to start the month off because they often work well with the horoscope, and then we'll have a look at your horoscope in depth. If you're new, subscribe and be alive and hit that notification bell right now. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Okay, let's go to the board and have a look and see what these cards have to say. I've just shuffled them and we'll see what comes out. And the first card that comes out is the Three of Cups. Okay, so this is basically saying it's a great time for socializing. You might want to go out with people, even if they're slightly different to you. They may not be, exactly on the right page, but when you go out, you have a fun time, and they're all in the fish's mouth together. So that's basically saying there's a spiritual connection there, but there's some sort of abundance that also goes with this card as well. Just be careful not to be wasteful, overspend, for example, go to a really fancy restaurant that you can't afford, for example, because you have a feeling of confidence or you have a feeling of abundance. Okay, so that starts the month off. Now let's have a look at the second half of the month if you want to think of time. And the card that comes out is the High Priestess card, and this is somebody who is very intuitive. This is somebody who's quite honourable. She has a great mind. Okay, not only does she probably have some psychic ability, but she has a great mind as well. You can see here she is studying religion. This is, I think, it says Torah, T-O-R-A, the Jewish Kabbalah system. Okay, so that's a fabulous card for you. Okay, and we'll see how this works in with the horoscope. They often do, the cards that come up. All right, now I'm just going to make this a bit bigger for you so you can see better. And we'll move that up there. Right, and we'll move these cards here and here. You'll see the new moon there in the 7th house of relationships is having a solar eclipse. All right, so there we go. We can rock and roll. Okay, so just to briefly go through the main events, this Grand Cross starts the month off with the moon here, which travels very fast, and so this will only be for a few hours on the 1st of October, or if you're in Australia and New Zealand, it'll probably be the 30th of September for you. And this is likely to be a very intense and challenging time for a few hours. Then the moon will move on, and instead of having this cross pattern, we'll just have a T-squared that's left, okay? But T-squares are not easy either. They also are known as a hard aspect. But they do bring some sort of reward for the work that you do. So there could be something ultimately beneficial that comes out of this for you, okay? But I would say on the 30th or the 1st, depending where you are, I would lay low. It's not a time to take risks. For sure, you could feel, intensely challenged or emotional about something, okay? So best stay home and don't plan to do too much. Okay, that's the Grand Cross. And then on the 8th of the month, Pluto, and on the 23rd of the month, Saturn go direct, and on the 3rd of the month, Mercury goes direct. So there should be less confusion around communications, travel, and also your thinking. Okay, and the 25th sees a solar eclipse here in your 7th house of relationships, and this is likely to be quite intense as well, but it brings some sort of new beginning around important relationships or legalities, or even what's called open enemies, which are people you know about but you don't really get on with. But there could be some sort of olive branch or a new beginning around that. We also have Jupiter going retrograde on the 28th in Pisces. I'll talk about that in a moment. And Mars retrograde on the 30th in Gemini, and I'll come to that too. So the 30th of September to the 2nd of October sees Venus opposition Jupiter. And this is likely to be a sort of fun time. It's quite a, you could be in a partying mood. It's quite a festive sort of time. It's a great time for going out with friends here. Even if you don't really, socialise with them in other sort of ways, you don't tell them, your intimate details and stuff like that, but you go out and you have a good time. So you could meet somebody new, a new romance could start. If you're in an established relationship, could be revitalised in some way. It's a great time for reaching out to other people because there's some sort of warmth there between you, and could be the start of something really beautiful. And you're likely to want to be surrounded by peace and harmony, and you might be feeling especially creative as well. That's with Mercury direct, by the way. So that's after the 3rd, those last few comments about your desire for love and affection dominates, and the new friendship starting. Sorry, I looked at the wrong line on my notes here. So that's after the 3rd. The 29th to the 4th of October sees Mercury opposition Neptune. This can be a bit confusing, and Mercury is still retrograde at this period until the 3rd, and then you have the shadow period. It's not a good time to sign a contract or come to an agreement with somebody. Could be some sort of misunderstanding and rather fuzzy thinking, but again, your imagination is probably on fire. And if you're an artist or a musician, you might find you're in a really creative period of sort of energy coming in so that you can really create wonderful things. The 5th to the 8th, Mercury trines Pluto, and it's out of retrograde now, and this brings great depth to your communications. You might find people telling you sort of really quite intimate details or secrets, and it's like you can get right to the core of the issue. You could be feeling like quite compellingly like getting to the core. You don't want to hear sort of shallow sort of things. You want to get right to the deep levels of stuff. And if you have a sort of problem that's quite complex, you can sort that out in your mind more easily than usual. Mars squares Neptune from the 8th to the 18th, and again, unfortunately, with Neptune, see here's Neptune here, which is part of that Grand Cross at the beginning of the month. It can be a very confusing time. It's almost like something could start at the beginning of the month, and then you spend the rest of the month trying to sort it out because it's confusing or it's a difficult problem, and there's lots of bits and pieces that you have to attend to. It's not the best time to, get physical and decide you'll go run a marathon or something like that, but it is good for your imagination. So there's quite a fair few indicators here about feeling inspired, and also it's quite a fertile time for your imagination. So if you're a writer, you might also get a lot of really good ideas. On the 9th, we see the Hunter's Moon here in the 12th house in Aries, and so this is a full moon that can be turbulent, but it's more like the rumblings are deep down inside rather than in the external world at this stage. And there's turbulence in your subconscious, so you might just be feeling a little bit off, or maybe you're having a few bad dreams, or there's things coming up, memories from the past that you have to deal with that you'd rather not deal with. But it's better out than in. If you can write about these memories that come up or that come back, you can actually, transform them in some way in your writing or through your art, perhaps. So it is a great time for meditation and for self-reflection. You might also have something to do with charities, or you feel closer to the underdog in some situation. Take time out for your spiritual life. Now, on the 10th, Mercury moves from the from the 5th house into the 6th house here, which is your house of everyday routine, your work, your health and well-being. So there could be discussions about these matters, or communications, or maybe you think about seeing an alternative health practitioner or somebody like that. There could be a lovely social atmosphere if you're working, and any sort of negative vibes there in your normal everyday life or at work, if you work in a separate place, are likely to be lifted in some way, so it feels more smooth, or something's resolved and it just feels more pleasant. From the 11th to the 22nd of October, Mars squares Mercury. Do watch for arguments here. Sometimes things just, can come out of our mouths, foot in mouth and all of that. I know all about it. You have to be a little bit sort of circumspect, or just careful what you say, Also watch for impatience and frustration, because Mars can do that. Mars wants to push you forward, but sometimes you can't move forward at the rate you'd like to, so you feel frustrated. And accidents and incidents can happen then. So slow down, take a deep breath. You can still achieve what you want to achieve. Just go carefully, that's all. 23rd sees the Sun moving into your 7th house here. And then on the 25th, it becomes a solar eclipse. And then on the 25th, the new moon is a solar eclipse here in Scorpio, and so quite intense. And we've got the Sun and the moon together, and this could bring some sort of significant breakthrough in important relationships. So even though it might be an intense time, it could be sort of like a purging or a clearing of the air. So again, this could work out quite favourably, because a solar eclipse can bring new beginnings. You might have been aware of something earlier in the month, and when the full moon was over here in your subconscious rumbling things up, you might have become aware of it. But it's like when the solar eclipse happens, then there's some sort of physical action that takes place in a relationship, or some sort of physical reality, a new change that comes into being. If you have any legalities, there could be some movement around these. Make sure you keep your emotions in check. It is a powerful time. And if you do have any legal matters, there might be some kind of offer, or there's some sort of release. And this is also the house of what's called open enemies, so the people you don't get on with. There could be some sort of resolution there, or an olive branch as well. Jupiter retrograde enters Pisces here in your friend zone, your connections, your groups. Maybe things go a bit quieter now, or you're thinking about these people, but you're not actually socialising with them as much as what you did at the beginning of the month. And you might find, that you just don't have the energy, or you're busy with other things, which is okay. Somehow maybe you can't get together as you normally would. And your hopes and dreams might also go a bit quieter as well. You might have felt inspired to do something, and then you start it, and then you run out of a bit of steam, but that's okay. It's only for a little while. And then, you'll get going again. On the 29th, Mercury also moves in here into your significant relationships area. Sorry, Mercury there. Put my finger on Venus. Mercury there, so more communications and ideas about your relationships. And on the 30th, Mars goes retrograde back into your sign here. And just, watch for arguments or incidents. Mars retrograde, it's like there's some incredible amount of energy, but you can't sort of get it out into the world. This could affect your identity or your beliefs. You might have felt really strongly about something earlier in the month, and then again, it's like you just run out of steam, don't have the same energy. So I would say be careful generally for October about, commitments or signing of contracts or something long term, because at the end of the month you may not feel quite as inspired. But basically a mixed bag this month. Some really positive things and some things that are a bit challenging, but ultimately work for your benefit. Okay, so that's it, everybody. I hope this is useful for you. Thank you so much for watching and sticking with me in these difficult times at the moment, everything that's going on. And I've been busy in other areas off YouTube. I've had a lot to do. So thanks for sticking by me anyway. I appreciate that. Anyway, have a wonderful month, everyone, and I'll continue on with these horoscopes. So it's Gemini coming up soon. If you are new, subscribe and be alive and hit that notification bell right now. Okay, thanks again and bye for now. Thanks so much for watching. Please visit my website absolutesoulsecrets.com for all things spiritual. Have a lovely day.